I've restarted this video like 3 times. Sometimes I get to the end of making a video and just think, what a load of shit. What's the point? Anyway, let's see how we go. I grabbed a handful of CDs from my CD shelf of the letter A. And they're just a random chunk. It's not all the A's, obviously, but it's some of them. Some of these I've listened to a bunch. Some of them I've only listened to a couple of times. Some of them I don't even like. But let's have a quick look-see and talk about what I know of these. So this here, I'd say, if you're watching this, you probably have no idea who that, probably can't remember what that says, but it says Antagonist AD. We Are the Dead. This is a New Zealand hardcore metal-ish type band. To be honest, I don't know much about them. I just picked this up second hand for 50 cents. And I thought, it looks okay. I think I Googled and I saw what genre it was and I just got it anyway. I think I've only listened to it through a couple of times, a handful of times. And it's okay. It's nothing amazing. I've talked about it before that, I don't know. New Zealand music tends to be quite derivative, especially when it gets into that kind of more defined genres, things like hardcore or metal or punk. It just sounds like inferior copies of stuff that happens in other countries, which might sound a little harsh, but it's true. AFI, A Fire Inside, if you didn't know. I have 2 AFI albums, both of these secondhand. Got this one for $1, and I think I got this one for 50 cents. You see this one, December Underground, around a lot in secondhand stores, and I'm not sure why. I guess it's sold quite a lot in New Zealand, and also a lot of people went on to get rid of it. But I've owned this one before. I owned this, not new, but I had a pirated copy when I was traveling in Southeast Asia. If you ever travel to like places like Vietnam, China, Cambodia, I guess even China at the time as well, Malaysia, Indonesia, in the 2000s you came across a lot of market selling pirated stuff, computer games, PlayStation games, DVDs, movies, CDs. Obviously, not so much anymore because it's not really necessary. But I had a pirated copy of this that I got when I was in Thailand, I think, in like 2003. And this is from 2003. This was their first album on a major label, if I remember correctly. Was that DreamWorks? Is that? I can't actually say. I recognize that. It doesn't say, of course. Well, probably does, but I can't see it. Sure. Say on here. Oh yeah, it is DreamWorks. I was right. This came out on DreamWorks. Which is that the same DreamWorks as the movie Dream? It must be. Surely there would be a copyright, trademark issues. You wouldn't be able to steal the name. But this album's okay. Sing the Sorrow. Miseria Cantere, The Beginning. It's a good starting song. Leaving Song, Girls Not Grey, Silver and Cold. Remember one of these songs had a video, and in the video they were like doing. If you've ever been to like a hardcore show, I think they still do it now. I think I've seen videos of it on like Instagram and stuff. The people at the show do like this like flailing of their arms, almost looks like they're like fighting each other, like kicking and swinging and punching the air, and and that's like how they dance to the music, hardcore music, and not just hardcore. They also do it, I think, in more kind of like I don't know, what are those bands like Hatebreed? What do you call that kind of bro metal? I'm not sure, but I think people do it at those shows as well. It looks ridiculous, but anyway, on one of the videos for that from this album, I think it was Leaving Song. The people that were showing that the video crowd were doing it. This album, I think, is a bit of a step down. It's not as good as Sing the Sorrow. One particular song I like is Affliction. Miss Murder was the big single, and I think that's an awful song. But Affliction's cool. I like the first half of Affliction, especially the bass. And I think Davey Havok's vocal was quite good on that song as well. America's Greatest Hits. 70s West Coast soft rock. Is that what you would call them? Horse with No Name. For the longest time, I thought that was a Neil Young song, which apparently a lot of people, that was a common mistake back in the day. But I went through the desert with a horse with no name is actually a America song. So this was released in '75, and this is a greatest hits compilation. So released in 1975. There's not much else to say about America. Ventura Highway is a nice song, isn't it? They released some music after this era as well, but I guess it's okay. I don't have much else to say about it. Just kind of one of those things you have. Get in there. Aerosmith, big ones. Now, I've never been what you say an Aerosmith fan. I know you hear a lot of people who they love Aerosmith and they were really important in their formative years. This is more so people who grew up in the 70s during Aerosmith's first heyday. And people talk about, they talk about them with, in the same way that people talk about, I don't know, like Van Halen or so. And actually, I would say even more than that. Like the amount of people who really talk about Aerosmith as being this amazing band who influenced them so much. I never really understand it. But then that was kind of before my time, and like I said, I never really got into them. And what this is, big ones, is the, I guess, most well-known songs from their latter heyday, from like, was it Pump and Get a Grip, and what was that other album? Pump, Get a Grip. There was another one as well. So you see things like Love in an Elevator, Dude Looks Like a Lady, Jane's Got a Gun, A Mate Crying and Amazing, The Other Side, Living on the Edge, Dude Looks Like a Lady Live. Which to me are just kind of just like typical classic rock radio songs that you can't but help hear. And they're not bad songs. I actually like most of those songs, as in, but I'm not going to go out of my way to listen to them, I guess. Yeah. But you see, it doesn't have any of the earlier stuff from, the 70s or the early 80s. I think, didn't Joe Perry leave the band for a period in the 80s? So is that ACDC, Black Ice. So this came out in 2008. Like Aerosmith, I guess, ACDC, it always surprises me the amount of people who absolutely worship ACDC. And how can I say this? Maybe, again, I don't get it. I was just going to say I don't believe it, but maybe I'd say I don't get it. I like ACDC, but you can't help but say they are incredibly repetitive. and samey, and they write the same kind of song over and over again, and maybe that's what appeals to people. A lot of people talk about Malcolm Young and his rhythm guitar chops, and his, how he's like kind of the ultimate rhythm guitarist. I get that. I understand that. However, I just don't understand why and how. Maybe it's their longevity. Maybe that's part of it as well. Even though half the band's not really in the band anymore, but anyway, Black Ice came in 2008, and it's an ACDC album. There's not really much else to say about ACDC albums. I think it doesn't sound that much different from what came before, like Bull Breaker or Stiff Upper Lip, or what was the one directly before this? Oh, it was Stiff Upper Lip. Yeah, so. If someone asked me, "Do you like ACDC?" Of course, I'd say yes. I like ACDC, and they've got some absolute classic songs. However, again, not the kind of band that I would necessarily go out of my way to listen to, because after about 4 or 5 songs, you think, okay, well, I know it's what I'm going to get here. It's not going to change that much. That's enough for today. I didn't get this secondhand, although it is secondhand. This was gifted to me. My wife's friend gave it to me because she knew that I liked ACDC. She was wearing an ACDC shirt once, and I said, "Oh, wow, you like ACDC?" I was quite surprised. And then later on, she gave this to my wife to give to me, so it was nice of her. Yeah. 2 more A's. Afghan Whigs. Remember them? This is Black Love from 1996. Afghan Whigs are, I guess, kind of part of that alternative rock 90s scene, but maybe to a kind of maybe a few rungs below some of the more well-known ones, or not maybe, definitely. They're not as well-known as some of the other bands that you would kind of associate with that time. So it says here, alternative rock, R&B, indie rock, post-punk, grunge. And the other album I have of theirs is the one that came out in '93, Gentleman. I should have brought that out as well. But anyway, this came out 3 years later. Probably prefer Gentleman a little bit more to this, but this is good as well. This has got that song Honky's Ladder on it. I remember hearing that a lot when I was a teenager on the radio and on TV. What's that? My Enemy. I like that song. It's a good song. But I saw this for sale for 50 cents in the second-hand shop, so I was like, wow. You do not see Afghan Wings around very often. Even in regular music shops, you would struggle to find them nowadays. So finding one for second-hand for 50 cents, I was pretty happy with that one. Last one to talk about, Atreyu. Remember Atreyu? Lead Sails, Paper Anchor. They were part of that kind of 2000s, late 2000s metalcore emo thing. To be honest, I don't like that kind of music now. I find it, I don't know. I've talked before about how I try not to dislike music from my youth just because I'm embarrassed by it. I talked about Korn and Limp Bizkit, but fuck, I'd listen to Korn and Limp Bizkit any day over this stuff. And the thing was, I was never really into this kind of music in that time. I kind of dabbled in it a bit, but listening to it now, I think it sounds very dated and it's boring. They'll do the same delivery of the growled vocal, like, row, 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 row. If you listen to any of those bands, You listen to Alexis on Fire, and I like Alexis on Fire more than most of those kinds of bands. But the delivery of the crowd vocal is exactly the same as this guy does it. And then they have the fruitcake coming over the top of the clean vocals. They all do exactly the same thing. It's just so, I don't know, it just sounds like they all copied each other. And then they all went, I think was their one, this is on Roadrunner, for the major label push. And they all go kind of, I think this was mixed by Andy Wallace. You know, how many times have I talked about that? We'll be looking at something, and it's always the album where they're trying to break into the mainstream. They get Andy Wallace to mix it, and it's just, this sounds like bad Fall Out Boy. Imagine you take Fall Out Boy, and as much as people don't like Fall Out Boy, I think they had a knack for writing catchy songs, good rock songs. Whereas these guys have tried to do that. I don't know. Some of them, I think the first song was a Doomsday. That's okay. And there's a bits and pieces throughout. I think, oh, that's okay, but I don't know. I think they overuse the clean vocal. I think the drummer does the clean vocal in that band. And the delivery of the crowd vocals is just so the same as every other one of those bands. And you know, where have they all gone, those bands? You barely hear anything about them anymore, do you? Okay, these guys broke up and they got back together. So they were once on Victory Records. If you know, Victory Records kind of, I think it's a Chicago label. Put out a lot of that kind of hardcore stuff. I think AFI might have been on Victory Records at some stage as well. Anyway, you can probably hear from my voice I'm a bit unwell at the moment. Got another cold caught from my son, brought home from school. Well, not from school, he was on holiday, brought it home from somewhere. His mate's house, I guess. Sometimes I feel I'm just doing this to distract myself. You know what I mean? You know, I think, what's the point? And I don't mean like as that, as in, I don't even know. Some days you have bad days, I guess. You can't be bothered with much. And seems like everything's getting hard. Maybe that's just getting old. Your body starts hurting. You gotta worry about health problems more. You gotta worry about job security. You gotta worry about your family. You gotta worry about the future. There's always something to worry about. So I think, well, if I can sit down for 20 minutes and talk about CDs, maybe that will distract me for at least that period. Didn't work though. All right, well, thank you for watching, and I mean that sincerely. If you actually got to the end of these 18 minutes, I sincerely do thank you for watching my videos. Cheers.